Hello everyone, in this video I just want to briefly show you the website that I created filled with resources to help us with our shift from using Schoology to Google Classroom next year. This site covers all of the basics that we need to successfully transition our assessments and export them from Schoology and to get them into Wayground or become a Google form. So what I wanted to do quickly is just to show you the different parts of the website and what each part contains. So here's the main homepage. On here we have links that go to our Google Classroom tutorials, Wayground tutorials, GetMark tutorials page. So they're at the top of your screen here, but there's also some helpful links right here. One of the first places that we should start is this page here, how to export your Schoology assessments. We need to get our assessments out of Schoology by exporting them. And when we do that, they're going to turn into a very specific file type. That file is going to be called a IMSCC file. So when you follow these directions on here, you're going to be getting a file based on a folder from your Schoology resources. So it's very important that you organize your Schoology resources in a way that is going to be the most helpful to you in the future. Here's my Schoology resources page. We access the export feature by clicking this drop down here at the top and selecting export. Now when you go into this screen where it says folder, this is where all of your folders will be. And if you can see the dashes here, every time there's a dash, that means that it's within the folder above it. So this is how they're showing you the folder nesting. So if I go all the way down to the bottom, I've made a folder called Schoology Assessments Export. Then inside of that folder, I have one called Lord of the Flies Test. To show you that on this screen, I'm going to scroll down. And here's the first folder, Schoology Assessments Export. And then inside here, I have a folder called Lord of the Flies Test. Now you notice in here, I have 3 assessments. So when I export this folder from Schoology, all 3 of those assessments are going to be inside one file. So what I'm going to show you next is the GetMark tool and some tools that I've made to help us with converting our assessments, and I want to show you how they each behave to that same file being imported. I'm going to start with my tool first. So at the top of the screen you can see Schoology to Google Forms Converter here. Underneath the More section here, there's more listed here as well. You can find these two from the home screen if you scroll all the way down. And we have my Schoology Conversion Export tools here. There's an explanation here for what each one does for the future, but I'm going to show you this in real time. The first thing to know is that when you come to this page, you're not going to actually see the tool here until you click these buttons, Review Permission and Continue. What you're doing with this is you're allowing my Google Apps script to run inside of your Google account. I like this solution because it's a Google only solution for security reasons. So we have a Google script running inside your Google Drive, which will create Google files for you, specifically a Google form. So for this tool, I'm going to click here where it says Upload IMSCC. On the next screen, I'm going to find where I saved my Schoology exports to. Inside my list here, I've got some different scenarios. I have that Lord of the Flies test that I just showed you. I also have some huge files that I'll show you here, and also some singular assessments. So these stand for Into the Wild Chapter 6, Into the Wild Chapter 18. So those are just only those assessments. So if I bring in that Lord of the Flies test from Schoology and I hit open, my tool is going to show you each one of those assessments as a separate import. For each one of these, you'll see that it already has the answer key coded in. So you can see the correct answers are checked here. And I have a button at the top that says Create Google Form. I click this button, my script will run, and it will create a Google Form in your Google Drive. Once the script runs, and depending on how many people are using Google at that moment, it will determine how long that process takes. Sometimes it's very quick, sometimes it takes a little longer, but then we're going to click this button here, Open Google Form. Here you have your Google form that's been created from your assessment. There might be some minor things you need to tweak or change. Come in here where it says imported from and just change that to the directions that you want to add for your assessment. You may find some spots like here where I need to add a space, but for the most part your answer key and everything are going to be in here correctly. This time it didn't work, so I'm just going to check here and hit done to assign that correct one. But for the other answers, you can see the answer has come in successfully. We can quickly come up to settings. You'll see that it's already in quiz mode. We can turn on locked mode, and then we can deploy this to our students by publishing it and copying that link to Schoology to start transitioning the rest of the school year. Now, my tool only will make Google Forms. That's one piece I want to make very clear. My tool will only make a Google form. Mine will also separate your assessments. So if you click on these other options, you'll see these are separate assessments now. And if I click create a Google form, it will make one based on these questions. If I bring in another file, so this I would say is a terrible export where I put everything from my Schoology all into one, and you can see all of the assessments here. This I think we should really avoid doing because it's going to make it nearly impossible to use this information on GetMarked. That's I'm going to show you next, but it will still make it so that your assessments are usable. The next tool I want to show you is my Schoology IMSCC export tool. The key difference for this one is that last scenario that I showed you where you have multiple assessments in one. You can click right here, bring in that same file, and you can go to assessment that you want to take out of this file and bring it into Get Marked Cleanly. Like let's say we want to use this one. So what this tool does is it'll give us a copy text button. So if we click this, it's going to copy the text from here. So if you wanted to bring this into a Google slide or use this information easily, if you're reviewing this with students, you want to bring it into a Google Doc, something like that, you can copy the text right here. We have this export IMSCC file button at the top. What that will do is that will separate this assessment from all the other ones and give us the option to save just this assessment as its own IMSCC file. So if I click here, now I have the option to save just that one assessment as its own IMSCC file. When I save this, it'll just be that one by itself, and then I can bring that into GetMarked or another tool if we want to separate them later. The other option we have down here is the Print Save as PDF button. So if I click this, it's going to open a new page. It's going to turn our Schoology assessment into a printable PDF. So up here we could print it out, but we also can save it as a PDF. So in my previous example with the Wayground PDF import, this is a way that you can separate your assessment, turn it into a PDF, and import it into Wayground if you prefer that method. If we scroll down further on this page, here's my Schoology assessment file retrieval tool. What this tool is designed for is a scenario where your assessment has files or media in it. So if it has pictures and audio or any other file types that you've added into the assessment itself, we would use this tool. So I just loaded in an assessment, and this one has audio files in it that you can see here. So if I hit play, I can hear that audio file. This is a little tiny screenshot, and so is this one that I added into that assessment. So I get these download buttons where I can get those files back out. So again, on the main page, I have an explanation for what the difference is between these tools so that you know which one you're using and why. These tools are also free, and they will work for the foreseeable future because they're just a Google code that's running in our Google Drive. So these ones we won't lose in the future as long as Google doesn't change how things work on their platform. GetMarked, however, we have a subscription to. The key difference with GetMarked is it's much more powerful and much more diverse what it's able to accomplish. So again, GetMarked can take your Schoology export files, IMSCC files, and bring those into Wayground, for example. It can turn just about anything into anything that we like. The other features that are great on GetMarked is that we can log into our Kahoot or Edpuzzle accounts inside of GetMarked and bring everything over to Wayground. So to show you how GetMarked works quickly, right on this main page here, we have our import quiz section underneath jobs. This is where we would browse and find our file. We would choose our IMSCC file and click open, and then we would submit. That file will then get added down here to our list, and then we can view it or export it. So that same example before, when I brought in that into the wild folder, I'm going to show you it here. So when you click the view button, this is going to show you how all of the questions came in. At the top, you can change the question type and you can edit the question and its possible answers. You can scroll down through and see all of the question types here that came in. But you'll notice that that folder had 3 assessments in it, and GetMarked has put them all inside of this one import. So if we want to separate them, we would go back to our GetMarked main page, and once it's a job that's been imported, now we're going to click on Item Bank. On the left-hand side, you're going to see all the different jobs that you've imported. So we would click on that import, and then in the staging screen, we can choose the questions that we want in that new export. There's some helpful buttons here like select all, or you can filter for question types here. And then once you do that, you build a group. So depending on the questions that you've selected. And once you click on the create button, we're going to name that group, and then we can export that as anything that we wish. So here are the groups that we've made. Here's one example that I made here. So I put in 67 questions, and I used different assessments that I've done in the past. And then I can use the export button here and choose a Wayground quiz or a Wayground interactive video quiz if it's a Edpuzzle we're converting that we want to bring over. If that sounds too complicated, just separate your assessments into their own files using my tool or how you export them from Schoology. Then inside your jobs list, you would just come down here, go to view if you want to edit the questions, and then select export when you're ready, and choose the Wayground quizzes option here. Back on the job screen where it says or import from, here where we'll find our options to bring in our Edpuzzle and our Kahoots. So if we click on Edpuzzle, we would log in to Edpuzzle through GetMarked using our email and password, and we would click Retrieve Quizzes. So if you do not have an Edpuzzle account, they have directions down here that you can follow. I've also added them on my website. On the GetMarked page, if you scroll down to the section where you see the how to set up Wayground, Edpuzzle, and Kahoot for GetMarked exports, I have directions for each one of the sites. Start with Wayground first because that's where everything's going to go to. So start here, give that account a password. Don't worry, you can still log in with Google afterwards. Then set up your Edpuzzle and Kahoot passwords, and at that point go back to GetMarked and use this feature to retrieve your quizzes and export them. Here you can see the different Edpuzzles I had saved in my account. I can then click on these and then export those questions. Make sure I would open up Edpuzzle too and have the YouTube link handy so that you can turn this into a Wayground interactive video really quickly. It'll keep all of the questions and bring it right over into your Wayground account. Similar experience for Kahoot. Just click on this page here, log into your Kahoot account, and you can bring in those Kahoots that you've made and convert everything to Wayground. You may find that this website changes a bit in the future. I'm going to be updating it as needed, and with any tips and tricks or problems that I see happen, I'll make sure that the information gets uploaded here as well. I would start with our how to export your Schoology assessments page and make sure that we start first organizing our resources and then exporting them. I recommend starting fresh, clicking on Add Resources, add a folder, name it on this screen, and then use our options that we have to move resources and move the ones that you want to export into that folder, and take your time doing that step so that when you use the export function, you're exporting with purpose and you're going to think of you in the future and how you want those materials to go into GetMarked or into my tool before you turn them to another assessment. So again, I'm happy to help anybody and sit down with them and go through this process and work on this with you. I just wanted to make this video so that those that wish to just kind of do a follow-along experience or have this as a resource in the future. Have a great day, and please don't hesitate to reach out for help.